Mark Morano, you are here at the 7th International Climate Change Conference of the Heartland Institute. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself? You're going to be presenting here?
Yeah, I'll be presenting later today. And again, it's a wide open field. I'm actually still trying to determine what I'm going to cover. I think I'll cover a little bit of the hypocrisy about the billboard ad versus how the warmists get a free pass on a lot of their wackiness and how they've singled out Heartland as though there's this faux outrage. I'm also going to talk a little bit about my concerns about Mitt Romney and some of the people he's surrounded himself with, former Bush administration people who are accepting of the UN IPCC view, who will probably continue still funding all of the UN IPCC and other science very similar to this. So I think our concern has to be focused on Mitt Romney. I also am going to focus a little bit on the EPA regulating CO2. In other words, we've achieved, we being skeptics and non-warmists, if you will, achieved stopping the United Nations climate process. We've achieved stopping cap and trade in the United States Congress. We've got reversals in all over the world now, from Australia about to happen probably, reversing their carbon tax, in Canada. Throughout Europe they're having a failure, and what's going to end up happening is in the United States we may have achieved all those successes in stopping regulation of CO2. But the EPA, an unelected bureaucracy, may achieve it. So we may lose the war in the end. It's going to be one of my focuses here. And the next election will be critical on that. Unfortunately, our horse is Mitt Romney, and it's a sad case. When Mitt Romney, one of his advisors when he was governor, was John Holdren on climate. Mitt Romney has to be, a lot of pressure has to be kept on him, and it's a little bit scary who he's surrounding himself with.
What do you think? He's made some conflicting statements.
He's all over the place.
Yeah. So
I think personally, he's a typical establishment Republican, and this is I think a lot of people agree with this. Most mainstream Republicans, and what I mean by mainstream are not movement conservatives, Tea Party conservatives, view the environment as a nuisance, and environmental issues as a nuisance. And so what happens is, and this happened with John Christie's a scientist, but Governor Christie in New Jersey, he actually made some very controversial decisions, and then capitulated on global warming on the same day.
He said it's real.
He was a skeptic, but then he said it was real. Why did he say it the day he said it? Where did that come from? I was told by his staff that was a sop, if you will, to the environmental movement, because he was making a lot of other controversial issues. George Bush had a war on terror, a lot of other issues. He basically gave in on the global warming. It's sort of their bone they toss to the other side. This is what happens with many Republicans. And what's sad is we've come so far with fighting global warming regulation, exposing the science, to think that we're now going to go back to someone like Mitt Romney, who in many ways his first instinct is, oh yeah, environment, I don't really care about that, let's just hand that over, let's just keep the status quo, if you will. And fortunately he's got people like James Connaughton, a George Bush global warmist believer who praised the United Nations, who's I believe called for a carbon tax. He is now poised to take over the EPA. So it's very frustrating for global warming skeptics when you realize who is the Republican standard bearer right now and how far we've come. I argue we can't go back to the George Bush, I call it the pathetic strategy of essentially accepting the science, doing nothing about it, and this is where it's just where we've been, and we need a president who actually can stand up to this whole global warming brigade, if you will. And I think the facts and history are standing up to it, but I hate to see a president come in, continue the funding, continue to rubber stamp the IPCC reports without question, and that's what it looks like Mitt Romney would do if elected.